Good morning, Larimer County, and welcome to our January 23rd, 2024 Administrative Matters meeting. I'll call this meeting to order at 9 o'clock, and as is our tradition, we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. My name is John Kafalis, Larimer County Commissioner. I'm joined by Commissioner Jody Shattuck McNally, and Commissioner Stevens is not here today. We're also joined by folks across the way. Tessa Beatty from the Clerk and Recorder's Office, who takes notes and records the meeting. It's a public meeting, of course, broadcast. County Manager Lorenda Volker, and a couple of good folks, part of our team in the Commissioner's office. With that, we will. Oh, hello everyone. It's good to see you. We'll begin with public comment. We'll begin with the folks who have signed up, and give me a moment to take a look at the list. I see that, let's see, for today, we have Cindy. I think Cindy might be the first person. Is Cindy here? Oh, there she is. Cindy, welcome. Please come on up, and if you would be kind enough to introduce yourself and any affiliation that you'd like us to better understand. And also the technology is a little off, so we'll have to rely on Sarah for the 3 minutes that folks have. Good
Okay,
morning.
there was a couple others signed up before me, but I think they put the wrong date down.
They may be. I see. I know Chris has signed up. I see Steve Human has signed up, but he's not here. So that's from. Oh, there. Okay, Steve, Chris. I guess two. Yeah, Steve is here. Got it. We're good.
So we're going to go ahead and go?
Yes, please.
Okay. Cindy Buckhart, it's BUCKARDT, and I'm the president of the Larimer County 4-H Foundation. I'm here this morning to review some of what was said publicly at last week's administrative matters. I understand you received an email, and it was alluded by you, the commissioners, that I was aware of this email. To set the record straight, I did not. I was also stated that the senator had a close association with the foundation. To make that statement publicly is wrong. You made it sound like the foundation is guilty by association. That is just wrong. You stated that the 4-H Code of Conduct had been breached. Why was this brought up? The foundation has not breached the 4-H Code of Conduct. Regardless, the board members of the foundation are not required to sign the 4-H Code of Conduct, as many of the board members have no direct affiliation with 4-H. The Larimer County 4-H Foundation is separate from the 4-H program that is a part of CSU Extension. Finally, to correct another comment, you stated that Mr. Connor McGrath has offered to meet with me several times. This is false. The one and only time Mr. McGrath offered to meet was in an email on March 10th, 2023. What you are alluding to is a completely different topic that has absolutely nothing to do with the carnival and the bake sale. If you care to discuss this comment further, please provide the documentation of such offers. I did not respond to the March 10th offer. Instead, I waited to see whether a bake sale would take place at the county fair. It did. I now ask, how can the county host a bake sale at the county fair and not allow one at the carnival? You have stated several times that the foundation has received a waiver for several years. To my knowledge, the carnival in 2022 was the first time the topic came up. The ranch director at that time questioned the need for permits, and the Larimer County Health Department clearly stated that our bake sale was perfectly acceptable. Prior to the 2022 carnival bake sale, the ranch stated that the ranch and county want to be good partners with Extension and the 4-H community. After this resolution, the comment would, why would the foundation believe there was a reason for concern moving forward? Connor McGrath was hired in October 2022, and the topic came up after his arrival, so less than a year ago. Unless you or Mr. McGrath can show documentation to the contrary, there were not several years of waivers. I would also like to see the documentation that the foundation knew this was coming for the last 2 to 3 years, as you also stated. You received an email from Connor McGrath dated January 18th, 2024, in which I asked for the specific reason the bake sale could not occur. Until this time, we had only heard that it would not happen. Mr. McGrath made it very clear in his email that this decision is his personal choice and not that of the Larimer County community. He stated, and I quote, "Assuming the risk of a non-commercial food product being distributed at a facility I operate is not a risk I wish to assume. So I ask you, is this decision the ranch's responsibility, or is it the decision of the Larimer County Health Department, as it should be? Each and every one of you are meant to represent the citizens of Larimer County." Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cindy. Next, Steve, well, if you would be kind enough to come on up, Steve.
My name's Richard Livingston.
Your name is Rich, pardon? Come on up. Help us straighten things out, who you are. And I should know, but
Yeah, name's Richard Livingston. It should be on the list there, right ahead of her.
welcome.
Thank you.
Good morning.
I live at 608 West Laurel Street, Fort Collins. I am here to ask about what happened to the senior tax work-off program.
Oh, Richard.
I know COVID killed that. I've heard the explanation for it, and it basically disappeared. And I guess there are some legal issues, but in light of the current tax situation, is the commissioners or whoever is responsible for this thing looking at replacing it with something? And I did hear, well, is it true that the budget for that came out of the school systems? Because somebody said Loveland still had it, but Fort Collins didn't. So, anything on tap for the same kind of program is my question.
Thank you for your question, Richard.
And I realize the increasing the senior exemption is the legislature's problem. But that wouldn't be, and that kind of slipped through after the Bill HH got rehashed. I understand they're going to try to sort that out by June. But it would be, and I haven't heard anything about increasing it, but I've heard about portability on it. Thank you.
Richard, thank you. And I will comment when it's our turn to comment. And actually, thank you very much for reminding me of our conversation last week. And I did follow up, and I'll have a little bit of information. I appreciate helping me to make that connection. And I think what was confusing, for some reason, I see your name here, but it was crossed out, so I'm not quite sure. And it was dated January 21. So we got that straightened out. I believe the next person is Chris Eichenberg. Chris, if you could please identify yourself. And again, 3 minutes, please.
I'm Pastor R. Chris Eichenberg. I'm a mandatory reporter. I'm here today. I gave you this list. This is to case number 22 PR 30540. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 complaints to your APS about situation that's going on, with details in this document about how this neglect has been occurring with my mother. Most recently, she had a blood clot. My father found out about it. She'd been working on it, complaining about it. And the place that she is at, including the co-guardian, did not do nothing. My father took her to the hospital and saved her life. We've been having problems with the co-guardian, and especially with APS, who hasn't been even, I found out, checking the people, the skilled nursing, the people, the names that I've given them in regards to these incidents. They, in fact, go, well, we're not going to check on that, and they threw it off. The first one happens to be medications. Medications my mother needs is oxygen, renal vitamin, and D3. She's supposed to have a Cinepar. She's supposed to have another medication, and she doesn't have a doctor. She has this guy by the name of Joe Kaufman with Village Medical that is a nursing practitioner that the co-guardian has lied to the court that is a doctor. Now, I'm having a situation that's going on with my mother that she has gone from 118 pounds to 104. She has lost cognitivity. She has lost the ability to even move her arms. I had her in PT where she could do this. And every time I report to your APS, she winds up getting bullied at the facility. She has shampoo poured on her head, water poured over her, and then they deny when she claims that she calls and talks to me or she talks to her husband and says, hey, they tried to drown me. Oh, they threw the towel at me and I can't even get my hands above here to dry myself, and they told me to go dry myself. She's in a non-skilled nursing facility. She's supposed to be in a skilled nursing facility. These complaints have been ongoing to your APS. I have gone to the FBI. In fact, FBI heard Michelle Alvarez, your person, call me and tell her that I asked him, when are we going to go to the police? I have 2 police cards here. They have got the audio, they have the physical evidence, and they have the pictures to prove the neglect. They have done nothing because APS will not move on it. And especially Benjamin Berenberg, who has received this, and so has Matt Kahn from the police department, who's a sergeant, has received the reason. The FBI, his name is Agent Chris, heard the situation going on, and he couldn't believe it because he's an attorney before he became an FBI agent, that there's nothing being done by your APS. So right now, I am fed up. I'm to the point of having to hire an attorney to sue the county and sue these APS officers for failing to even talk to the people that say to me, they've never come and talked to me. They've never told me anything because, we're not going to do this one. We decided not to do that one. I thought every time you reported to APS, Adult Protective Services, you're supposed to have somebody really investigate. It's not being done. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. I believe that's all I have signed up. Let's check to see if anyone signed up for public comment via the phone. Sarah?
I have one question, Mr.
No, Commissioner.
Email addresses. I'll send you the exact
Yes.
address and pictures of the FBI.
There'll be an opportunity for us to comment, and I'm happy to speak with you offline, as I've done many, many times over the years.
No one online, Commissioner.
Thank you, Sarah. Then, before we close public comment and see if either of us want to respond to what we heard this morning, is there anyone else who is interested in providing public comment but may not have signed up on this little sign-up sheet? Well, then we will close public comment. Thank you all very much for being here. And I will see if Commissioner Shattuck McNally, if there's anything you'd like to share or speak to.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First off, just appreciate everyone always coming in and being engaged in our process for public comment. We do appreciate the engagement, and we're listening in regards to the public comment today. Certainly frightened and concerned to hear about your experiences, and I'm sure that you will provide us the evidence or the details you have, and I'm sure there's staff that are listening that will follow up and let us know about that. I'm sure I'll let Commissioner Gonzalez talk about the senior tax exemption, since he seems to have a relationship with that gentleman. And with the rest of the other comments, I feel it's not, there's plenty of emails and correspondence to show all the way back from November of 2021, and I'm just not going to go there and have this continue conversation. I do appreciate the concerns, but we have, I do think that there has been a good faith effort to reach out and have a one-on-one conversation with the 4-H Foundation president, and we think we stated clearly last week our concerns about the temperature of the emails. So I will just leave that there. And again, I just appreciate everyone coming today and engaging in our public comment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. So in response to Mr. Livingston Richard, again, thank you for helping me to remember that we had a good conversation and we photocopied a document. And I did follow up with our Department of Human Services, and they haven't gotten back to me, so I need to follow up on them with them today. Our Office on Aging, they're the ones that interface with the Health District of Northern Larimer County regarding the senior dental program that they administer. And if I remember correctly, sir, you had raised concerns about a particular Medicare Advantage plan that provides dental coverage, and that is impacting your access to the senior dental services program through the health district. So I will certainly follow up with our human services director today, because I understood they were having a meeting on Friday, and I believe today is Tuesday. So I'll follow up accordingly and make sure that we get back in touch with you on the homestead exemption. Um, all the issues are connected, but of course, we have the senior homestead exemption, which provides some level of tax relief, property tax relief, to folks who are 65 and older. We also have the Gold Star Spouse Program and 100% disability veterans senior exemption. Excuse me. I believe the legislature will be looking at the portability issue, and so we'll have to continue to engage with uh, the state legislature. But we'll get back to you on the dental program for sure. Thank you, sir. Regarding Chris, I appreciate the papers that you gave us. I will read them, try to understand what is in those documents. I will share the extra copy with Commissioner Stevens. And once again, as I've done in the past, I will follow up with our APS, Adult Protective Services folks, to get their perspective on what's happening with your mom. I'm very sorry that your mom is going through all of this with the nursing facility. I didn't know we could have unskilled nursing facilities, so is that something we need to check on? Because skilled nursing facilities are intended to be the highest level of care, for folks who have needs. So we'll follow up there, and that's all. I can't really speak to the bake sale issue this morning. I don't think I have anything. Chris, nope. You know how it works. Forgive me. I'm happy to talk to you afterwards. Um, yes. You have my cell number. I may be on speed dial, and I'm happy to speak with you. So I think I'll take a breath for a moment before we move on. Again, we do appreciate genuinely that folks take the time to be here, and we'll do our best to respond and try to resolve any issues that we're able to resolve. The next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. There's a motion. Commissioner Shattuck McNally, would you like to offer that motion, please?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I move to approve the minutes for the week of January 15th, 2024.
Thank you. Proper motion. Any further discussion?
No, sir.
Then all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes 2-0, one excused. We'll now move on to review of next week's commissioner schedule, and we have Sarah to help us with that. Sarah, thank you.
This is the Commissioner's schedule for January 29th through February 3rd, 2024. On Monday, January 29th from 8:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m., Commissioners Kafalis and Shattuck McNally may attend the Behavioral Health Consumer Advisory Committee meeting. It's a hybrid meeting. In person, it will be at the Behavioral Health Facility at 2260 West Trilby Road in Fort Collins, or virtually via Zoom. From 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., there will be a work session with Mark Pfaffinger, Support Services Director, regarding internal services in the Commissioners' Conference Room on the second floor. From 1:30 p.m. to 2:30 p.m., there will be a work session with Leslie Ellis, Director of Community Planning, Infrastructure, and Resources in the Commissioners' Conference Room on the second floor. From 3 p.m. to 4:30 p.m., the Commissioners will attend the Larimer County 2023 Employee of the Month celebration in the hearing room on the first floor. From 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m., Commissioners Kafalis and Shattuck McNally will attend the Larimer County Sheriff's Office Annual Awards Ceremony at the Timberline Church at 2908 South Timberline Road in Fort Collins. From 6 p.m. to 7 p.m., Commissioners Kafalis and Shattuck McNally will attend the Human Services Building reopening celebration at 1501 Blue Spruce in Fort Collins. On Tuesday, January 30th, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., there will be an Administrative Matters meeting in the hearing room on the first floor. From 1 p.m. to 5 p.m., there will be a commissioner's retreat in the Lake Loveland Conference Room on the second floor. On Wednesday, January 31st, from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m., Commissioners Kafalis and Stevens will attend the annual extension showcase in the hearing room on the first floor. From 8:30 a.m. to 1 p.m., Commissioner Shattuck McNally will attend the Wildfire Crisis Strategy in Action at the Water Congress Workshop at the Hyatt Regency Aurora Denver Conference Center at 13200 East 14th Place in Aurora. From 12:30 p.m. to 4 p.m., Commissioner Shattuck McNally will attend the Forest Health Council meeting at the Hyatt Regency Aurora Denver Conference Center at 13200 East 14th Place in Aurora. On Thursday, February 1st, from 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m., Commissioner Kafalis will host a community conversation for the Wellington and Waverly communities. Guests will be Irene Josie, Larimer County Treasurer and Public Trustee, and Tina Harris, Larimer County Clerk and Recorder, who will discuss property tax statements in the 2024 elections at Avuncular Bob's T-Bar Inn at 3803 West Cleveland Avenue in Wellington. From 12 p.m. to 1 p.m., Commissioner Stevens will participate in the virtual National Association of Counties Transportation Committee meeting. From 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., Commissioner Stevens may participate in the North Front Range Metropolitan Planning Organization Planning Council meeting. It's a hybrid meeting. In person, it'll be at LaSalle Town Hall at 128 North 2nd Street in LaSalle or virtually via GoToMeeting. On Friday, February 2nd, from 9:30 a.m. to 12 p.m., Commissioner Stevens may attend the Regional Air Quality Council board meeting. It's a hybrid meeting. In person, it'll be on the 4th floor boardroom at 1445 Market Street in Denver or virtually via Zoom. From 12 p.m. to 1:30 p.m., Commissioner Shattuck McNally may participate in the virtual Counties and Commissioners Acting Together Housing and Public Health/Human Services Committee meetings. From 12 p.m. to 2 p.m., Commissioners Kafalis and Stevens may attend the Colorado State University 2023 to 2024 Thematic Year of Democracy Presidential Conversation with Jane Fonda at the Laurie Student Center at 1101 Center Avenue Mall in Fort Collins. From 3 p.m. to 5 p.m., Commissioner Shattuck McNally may attend the Dr. Clarence Holmes Dental Hygiene Suite ribbon cutting ceremony at the Gray's Peak Building at 4616 South Shield Street in Fort Collins. And on Saturday, February 3rd, from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., there will be Common Grounds with Commissioner Shattuck McNally. Guests will be the Larimer County Human and Economic Health Director, Laura Walker, and Behavioral Health Services Business Project Manager, Taylor Kelly, who will discuss the Behavioral Health Services Master Plan at the Larimer County Office of Emergency Management at 4872 Endeavor Drive in Johnstown.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Commissioner, is there? Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner. I also, I think I will probably be attending along with my colleagues the CSU Thematic Year of Democracy, the presidential conversation. So I'll probably be attending that, and maybe we'll have staff attend the Public Human Services meeting. But I wanted to take advantage of that special speaker, so I will be attending that as well.
Is any other
I don't
input?
believe so. The other things I have on my calendar, just I have a lot of meetings next week, so but they don't need to be listed. Thank you.
I'm good with what you've shared. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we'll now move on to the consent agenda. Again, as a reminder, the items that I will go through are items that are administrative matters, generally of a routine nature. As far as we can tell, there is no controversy related to these matters, and we go through them. Commissioners have the option of pulling something off of the consent agenda, and therefore having a discussion about that particular item, and that's basically about the consent agenda. Also, it's important to note that the details of all of these agreements and appointments and so on, they are on the website. So if folks are interested, they can get that information. So with that, I will begin to highlight the items that are listed in our consent agenda for January 23rd, 2024. There are two agreements. The first one is a first amendment to the LaPorte Pit Special Review Development Agreement. This is the First Amendment of the LaPorte Pit Special Review Development Agreement between the Poudre Fire Authority and Loveland Ready Mix. There is no dollar amount, and this will basically allow for one of the lots that are part of that special review to have that available to the Poudre Fire Authority. I think it goes without saying that it would be helpful if folks could put their phones on silent. Thank you. So that's the first agreement. It essentially allows for the Poudre Fire Authority to continue progress regarding the fire station that they wish to build up in the LaPorte area. And the details of this amendment are in the packet online. The second agreement is bid number B23-16, project number 345, construction services agreement, federal aid, project number SHO CO 60, Colorado 60-090. This was submitted by our engineering department, and this is the approval of a construction services agreement with Ideal Fencing Corporation for guardrails on County Road 38E and 73C. Again, project number 345. 10 working days, the dollar amount. So this is between the county and that company. The dollar amount is approximately $226,000 to do that work. We move on to appointments. Recommended appointment to the Fair Board. Vera Brown, appoint Vera Brown for a full-term appointment to the Fair Board beginning today, ending November 30th, 2026. The second appointment is to the Red Feather Lakes Planning Advisory Committee. James Cates, full-term appointment to the Red Feather Lakes PAC, beginning today, ending December 31, 2026. The third appointment is to the Office on Aging Advisory Committee, Kendra Lechtenberg. Looks like a full-term appointment to the Advisory Council, beginning today, ending June 30th, 2026. The final appointment is recommended to the Rainbow Lakes Estates PID Public Improvement District. Todd Potrikis, full-term appointment to this PID, beginning today, ending November 30th, 2027. The next category is deed, special warranty deed, the Weed District Shop, the Larimer County Weed District Shop. This has to do with they've moved over to the ranch, and the offices on East Mulberry are to be sold and occupied by a different entity. And that's Larimer County and NOCO MCW LLC. The next item is miscellaneous. This is the fourth quarter 2023 public trustee report submitted by our county treasurer. Summary of activity between October 1st and December 31st of last year. Moving on to resolutions. We're almost there. You're all getting off easy. This is actually a short one. And again, it's not to, all of this stuff is important, but it is routine administrative stuff that we need to share with the public. If you're interested in the details, it's online, but this is as much as I wish to share. Resolutions, the first one, number one, is a resolution ratifying a contract to buy and sell real estate. This is submitted by Jennifer Johnson with our facilities She's our facilities planning and real estate manager. Basically, it's formal approval of a resolution to purchase the Suite 120 at the Cortina condos. The contract has been executed, as we've discussed in the past, and Jennifer and is one of the people that has signing authority for that particular contract. The second the second item under resolutions is a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, between the county, Larimer County, and the Early Childhood Council of Larimer County, ECCLC, submitted by our Human Services Director, Heather O'Hare. This is an MOU with the ECCLC to determine the feasibility of expanding early childhood services in the county. Item number 3 under resolutions, resolution amending special event permit requirements for Larimer County roads. We've been discussing this a number of times through work sessions submitted by our Community Planning, Infrastructure, and Resource Director, Leslie Ellis, various departments. And basically this sets up a calendar for special events that are impacting in particular places, open space or areas such as Horsetooth Reservoir, Carter Lake, and others, to put some guidance on how those events are to take place. Because when they take place during the summer, when there's a lot of visitors up, for example, to Horsetooth Reservoir, there can be public safety issues. There can be conflicts with folks wanting to enjoy the reservoir and folks who may want to participate in a running race or bicycle race and that sort of thing. That's that one. Well, enough said. And actually, that's the final item on the consent agenda. So you can all smile. Smiles are good. At this time, I will ask my commissioner colleague, Commissioner Shattuck McNally, any of these things you want to pull off?
Not today, sir.
Okay, then I guess you're the person for the motions today. Would you offer that motion, please?
Certainly. Mr. Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda for January 23rd, 2023.
Great, thank you kindly. That is a proper motion. Any further discussion?
Nope, sir.
No further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that passes 2-0, one excused. The next item is commissioners' guests. You're all welcome to be here, so on some level you're all guests, and you're the people we serve, but there's no one listed. We move on to discussion items, and that the first item is an update regarding the actions being implemented by our Larimer County Department of Health and Environment to improve air quality in Larimer County, and we have our Public Health Director, Tom Gonzalez, and I think there's still some technology glitches, so you'll be using the laptop, and will they be seen? They can't be seen. Oh, they can? Yeah, if you could do all that, we look forward to your presentation. Having reviewed the slides, it's a lot of good work is being done.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners, County Manager Volker. It was back in July of 2022.
Did you identify yourself?
Pardon?
Did you identify
No,
yourself?
I have not.
I would.
I failed.
You did not fail, but in terms of fairness, we apply the same standards to everyone.
I'm glad you do. Tom Gonzalez, Public Health Director. Thank you. Good morning. Back in July of 2022, we came to you in a work session regarding air quality, and we came with several initiatives that we've been working on, the team had been working on ways to combat air quality. Really specifically looking at precursors that lead to ground level ozone as we continue to be part of the 9-county non-attainment area, the federal EPA standard for ground level ozone. I'm proud to have the team here to give an update on their activities in almost 18 months of work. Lots of work going on to not only really curb those emissions in Larimer County, but also do some outreach and education efforts to the general public on how we all can work together to promote air quality. So the team today is our Environmental Health Director, Chris Manley, Leah Schneider, our Environmental Planner, and Noel Udell, who's one of our air quality specialists. So we're going to turn it over to those three to give you an update. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tom. Welcome, folks.
It's nice to be here on this level tonight, today.
And you will introduce yourself at the appropriate time, all of you.
All right. Good
Please.
morning. My name is Noel Udell, and as introduced, I am the Health Department's Air Quality Lead. And I wanted to take the opportunity on the first slide of our presentation to discuss the Health Department's Air Quality Program. As an overview, the Health Department is contracted with the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment to perform air pollution monitoring activities. And we currently have 5 staff members who are involved in different aspects of the program. Each year, we conduct routine inspections of 25 to 30 commercial air pollution sources to evaluate for compliance with air pollution or air quality regulations and state-issued permits. And from there, our inspection reports are then submitted to the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment's Air Pollution Control Division for evaluation. Sources in Larimer County include oil and gas sites, manufacturing operations, surface coating operations, including paint booths, sand and gravel mining, and more. If violations are determined during on-site investigations, we are able to initiate compliance action by submitting information to the Air Pollution Control Division for their enforcement. We also investigate complaints from the public, municipalities, Air Pollution Control Division, and in some cases, the Environmental Protection Agency. In 2023, for example, we investigated approximately 59 complaints of air pollution sources. A majority of those complaints are related to odor or dust. Typically in the summer months is when we get dust generation complaints. We also perform routine and complaint and base inspections of chlorofluorocarbon or CFC sources in Larimer County to again evaluate for compliance with applicable regulations. These include refrigeration equipment sites, air conditioning sites, and motor vehicle repair and salvage facilities. And then as you can see on the last bullet point on the slide, we perform maintenance of air monitoring stations as part of the statewide monitoring network. And in order to perform all of these activities, our staff attends annual training to maintain certification in odor and opacity. And with that, I will turn over the presentation to Leah Schneider for more on monitoring sites.
And no, before you do that,
Yes.
maybe it would be helpful. I know I have one question related to this slide.
Sure.
But Commissioner Shattuck McNally, anything at this time? I'm curious, and maybe we could answer this at the end, but regarding the 2023 complaint investigations,
Yes.
I think it would be helpful to know for all of us what were some of the outcomes of those complaints. Were there any did any of them elevate to requiring corrective action? That would be helpful to know.
Absolutely. So not necessarily elevated to referral to the state. We were actually able to get voluntary compliance in nearly all of those cases. Those included some cases of dust generation. We were able to chat with the individuals who were, for instance, land clearing on site and get water trucks out there, things like that, to address it on a voluntary compliance basis.
Great. Thank you. That's helpful. Thank you.
We're going to swap up a little. I'm Chris Manley. I'm the Environmental Health Director. Noel mentioned that there's a statewide network of regulatory monitors. And one of the things that we talked about a year or so ago was increasing the monitoring that we have in Larimer County. So what we've been working on over the last really 12 to 18 months is getting some of these new regulatory monitoring sites in place. So this map that we've got up on the screen shows the 2 blue dots are our existing sites that we've got. One of the things we've talked about is we've got a huge gap in where these regulatory monitoring sites are. So these Fort Collins sites, the next one is down in Longmont, and then east to Greeley. So the 2 red dots you see here are the new sites, one in Timnath and one in Loveland that we're working on. They're both making pretty good progress. We've got the equipment here. The Timness site has got the shed. It's all ready to get everything put in there and turn on. The Loveland site's a little further behind, but we've got all the equipment and we're getting the shelter in place hopefully soon. And then the kind of orange dot on here is the city of Fort Collins at the same time has been working on a new regulatory monitoring site. So hopefully by ozone season this year, we've got 3 new sites operating in the county. One of the benefits is this is going to give us more data on, we'll be able to identify trends in ozone production in the region, based on weather patterns. With just those 2 sites in Fort Collins, it's really difficult to draw anything from that data. Now with a site, we really like the location of that Loveland site, kind of tucked right against the foothills, almost identical to the way the Fort Collins site is. So we can determine, is it different in Loveland versus Fort Collins? Again, trend data. And then because these are somewhat permanent sites, it also sets us up for, we've got the ability, potential in the future to add additional types of monitoring equipment to those sites. So these are not, small. This isn't the purple air type of system. These are 8x12 equipment shelters with pretty sophisticated equipment in them. So we're excited to get these sites up and running. And then we've got another big monitoring project going, and I'll let Leah talk about that one.
Thank you, Chris.
Leah Schneider, Environmental Health Planner and Air Quality Supervisor with the Health Department. So what Chris just mentioned was our regulatory monitoring sites that'll work with, we'll contract with the Air Pollution Control Division. It'll become part of our state implementation planning and the modeling that they do for ozone levels and trying to figure out state policies. This is going the opposite. This is a research project that you guys might remember back in 2022 that Larimer County partnered with CSU and the city of Fort Collins on. This is an EPA air toxics grant that focuses on environmental justice, pollution monitoring. And we started in 2022. We were finally awarded financially in fall of 23, and we've had our first kickoff meeting with our Air Quality Monitoring Advisory Committee, which is our AQMAC. Some more acronyms for us to enjoy. The AQMAC, our stakeholders include community connectors from all over Larimer County. We've even brought in some people from Thompson School District to represent Loveland. And we have a couple of advocacy groups out there. And we have a lot of air quality professionals that already work with, say, Air Pollution Control Division or the Regional Air Quality Council. And this group, their role is going to be, we had our first meeting. We have a diverse level of knowledge, so it's going to take a lot of time to get everybody on the same page. We have to educate them on air toxics, which, just as a general background, air toxics include things like benzene, formaldehyde. These are common compounds that are produced in our environment from anywhere from, say, an asphalt facility to oil and gas facilities, to auto body shops. They could even, air toxics are present in your home as well. And wildfires are a very large source of air toxics from the natural environment. But these stakeholders are getting together and they're going to help us identify communities that have concerns about what they're exposed to. And as well as like, how long should we monitor in these communities? Maybe we look at a school population for youth, or we look at other communities in the area that maybe are burdened because they live next to so many commercial sources. But anyway, this is an opportunity to get in the communities, monitor, kind of educate on air quality safety. We're also reaching out and working with CSU's Center for Environmental Justice. They're going to help us set up air quality workshops throughout the county. And these will occur at least 4 times a year, and we'll have open houses to demonstrate some of the equipment we're using, and just educate again on air quality, how to protect yourself, how to get involved if you want to, make changes. Air toxics monitoring will be conducted by CSU, and some of the examples of the monitoring equipment are on the right side of the slide. We've got portable sensor stations that will collect whole air samples that we can run at the CSU lab and see if a spike occurs in a VOC or volatile organic compound. This is just a general term we use for all of the air toxics. So as a spike occurs under the sensor, a canister will open up and collect a whole air so we can bring it back and analyze and then figure out kind of what sources are producing those air toxics. So we have a mobile plume tracker, which is a hybrid Tahoe, and that'll run around to help us kind of search if we have large events where we have concentrations of air toxics maybe moving through an area. And then these other portable Sensit pods will just kind of be set up in our communities, and we'll move around as needed. And again, we're still in the deciding challenges right now. And again, this is just more research. This isn't regulatory yet, but we have talked to the Air Pollution Control Division, and there's a lot of air toxic spills right now, and they're trying to do more community monitoring statewide on air toxics to see what Colorado is being exposed to. So we may be able to use this as part of the state's data as well. Okay, and then moving on, another big project that we had started with the city of Fort Collins, they gifted us some funding so that we could purchase an optical gas imaging camera. And if you remember, this is a camera that can detect invisible hydrocarbon emissions such as volatile organic compounds consisting of benzene, toluene, a lot of common products from oil and gas facilities. We have fueling stations. Think of anything that uses gas fuel or gas in general. We have 2 staff that just got certified. Actually, I'm going to back up a minute. We finally got the camera midsummer. We actually got it manufactured for us. So it wasn't just off the shelf. They made it was being built, and then we were given the camera. We did a training with the manufacturer. And then we had to send 2 staff in late fall to a certification program in Denver that's 3 days long. So we have 2 staff certified there. We have 2 more going in February of this year. And then on top of that, you've got to get everybody fully equipped. We have personal gas monitors that they have to wear in the field. They have, hard hats, goggles. They have flame-resistant clothing, steel toe. But we are there now this year to finally get out and use the camera. We have tested it a couple times. I don't know if you remember, our land use code requires all of our oil and gas operators to at least contact us once a year to accompany them on a leak detection survey. And we've had a couple in Loveland that have called us, and we've gone out, and it's been successful. We've seen some leaks. They're minor. Staff come in, they fix it right away. They do follow-up investigations on the survey, but we've been able to use the camera at those situations. We're also planning this year to start using the camera as part of our complaint investigations and our oil and gas routine inspections. Before, we couldn't do it until we were certified because we couldn't back up an enforcement action if we did it and just observed without the certification. So hence all the time it's taken, but now we're at that level to use that. And we're also exploring other additional uses for the camera. We've talked with Air Pollution Control Division and looking to incorporate fueling stations as a inspection. So we've never inspected stationary sources like what Noel was covering that include fueling stations. And I guess there's a lot of VOC, the volatile organic carbon or compound released during loading and unloading at these gas stations. So we're going to try and incorporate those in. But we're exploring if this is still possible. We'll talk about our contract here soon in early spring. And then we're also looking at outreach opportunities, which we're going to play a video for you that you may have already seen. But this was an unscripted impromptu video that our communications department worked with us on in the field to demonstrate some of these invisible emissions that not everyone sees without the camera. I think I just...
So this is an infrared camera, and it helps us capture VOC emissions from gas-powered equipment and other equipment.
Sorry, I messed it up. I just not got to touch it. You can see that, I'll wait. And you can see it was when you're pumping gas. Like, this is why we ask people to stop at the click, because VOCs can keep releasing the more you play with that lever on your.
This is just a demonstration of how many hydrocarbons, how many volatile organic compounds can come off of just filling at the gas station with gas. This fossil fuel will release out and then mix with our high temperature UV light in the middle of the day. So it's best to fill early mornings or later in the evenings.
Okay, and Chris is going to come back.
Thank you, Leah. It looks like Commissioner Shaddock McNally
Oh, questions?
has a question or a comment.
Yeah, thank you. And really excited that it's finally here. And I appreciate the partnership and the funding and resources with City of Fort Collins. It sounds like our partners to the south in Loveland have utilized this. I'm hoping they will become partners as well. I'm curious, is this also, since we have this partnership with the City of Fort Collins, and I remember the meeting where we talked about doing this and going forward to try to solve this and work on this together. Is this something that the city can call and ask you to come out and do monitoring or take an image? So, because since it is a partnership with them, I'm just curious about, are they aware of this and are they able to utilize this? Have you come out, and are any of the City of Fort Collins people going to get certified too, or what does that look like?
It's because we're the ones that represent all of Larimer County, even our municipalities in the air quality program with the state health department. We are the only ones that'll be certified and operating, because we are the ones that inspect those air sources. But yes, anybody can call. City of Fort Collins will call us when they get complaints and ask us to visit a site. City of Loveland is also open to this. We just, with our state contract, have the ability to investigate within municipal boundaries. So please share that with your partners.
Thank you. Also, I'm curious, with this EPA air toxics grant, the two portable monitor stations, I know that you said you haven't made any decisions yet, and this is mostly for research. Is this going to be, do you feel that well, there's some like the portable, and then there's four whole air canisters. Will these be strategically placed around the county, do you believe, to capture around industrial areas, or to kind of maybe look at areas that are closer to major transportation highways? I'm just curious, but I have another one attached to this, but let's start with that one first.
Okay. No, agreed. Like, this is the brainstorming that happened last week with our stakeholders, because they're just like, they're just throwing out all these ideas of where they want to monitor, and transportation corridors came up a lot. And if you think about it, working with land use planning in our engineering department, if we find that an area just is stagnant because traffic just keeps getting stuck and idling, and we have air toxic emissions exposing the community in that area, maybe we figure out infrastructure that supports movement more in that area and stuff. So yeah, we definitely, it's all going to be what kind of community input we get, where these community connectors bring us, air quality stakeholders, professional. Yep, we're looking for. We have some CSU students on there too that have really big ideas. So it's a 3-year project. So we've got some time.
And I'm curious about this mobile plume tracker. If you guys are aware of a mobile plume somewhere, would you be alerting the public to stay inside in that area and then still be tracking? I'm just curious, how do you know where that mobile plume track, is there a thing that triggers, that notifies you that this is happening, and then you go track it? So if there is like a plume, wouldn't it be something that the public would want to know to stay inside at that time? I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, that was one of the things, because, as we're going out there and we're exploring a little more, it may be that we have to, just let communities know through, we have like community, Facebook groups, and you have neighborhood networks and things that we can reach out to quickly and just kind of let them know, hey, we've noticed that there's an upset. Maybe we've detected higher levels of a certain compound at this time. And this is going to be hard, because it's not, the plume tracker is more to kind of back up those portable monitors. So we'll have those guys set up strategically near each other, like upwind, downwind, and then the plume tracker kind of follows around, and we'll do some circles to see if maybe there's a dominant side that's getting hit. And, and we're hoping to use this to, maybe there's some sources out there that aren't properly permitted that we've never known about that we can get in. Maybe there's a malfunction that we can help them work on. Maybe it's just evaluating background so that we know maybe we don't need more dry cleaners in that area or something along that nature.
Thank you. And then I just want to encourage you. I think it's that little video and really kind of showing when you pump. I mean, that would be great if we could get something more formal out to kind of educate folks for the summer.
Oh, yeah.
Especially, and I think that is really would be helpful to kind of, you can see it. We're not just talking about, they can see and they're standing there breathing it as they're pumping.
Yes.
And so I think that is maybe it could be a powerful education piece. And one more thing, even if it's not the one thing that's going to make a difference, but all these things together, we can make a difference. And especially since we're in such a sadly non-attainment area, so it's an extreme non-attainment area. So I want to applaud you for. I know it's been a lot of extra time and training, but I think this has been fantastic, and I do want to thank our partners, City Council and City of Fort Collins, for their partnership in this, so that we can have these resources. And thank you to our health director and the health department for partnering that with Larimer County and all of us to have this extra opportunity to address our air quality. Thank you.
No, thank you. Really appreciate it. And if you guys have ideas, please share those with us. So, we're only a small group. So anything you have, let us know.
So,
go ahead.
Well, just that there's more in the presentation.
Yes, there is.
Looking forward to hearing about lawnmowers and other gas-powered devices. I have a few questions, but I believe I'll wait till the end.
So in the first part of the video, you saw me struggling to start up a gas-powered trimmer, and you can see the emissions coming off of it. So one of the things we've been doing the last couple of years and continue to do is we've been working with Regional Air Quality Council on their mow-down program to swap gas-powered lawn equipment with battery or electric. It's a really significant contributor to our air pollution. There's some changes for this year. So the RAC, the Regional Air Quality Council, will not be doing a residential program this year because there is a statewide rebate off the shelf for residential equipment. I looked actually this morning. It looks like Home Depot and Ace are already honoring those discounts for our area. So we're going to shift a little, and we had thought of shifting last year, but we're going to really make a full effort this year to try to really work in the commercial landscaping area and trying to provide some resources for those companies to switch from gas powered to electric. That's really where the RAC has gone with the statewide program. So that's what we'll be doing as we make that change for this year. And then I think the last piece we have shifting from outdoor air quality to indoor, because January is National Radon Action Month, we just wanted to bring that to you all. Larimer County, half the houses, half the homes do have elevated radon levels. Our levels from radon tests returned just last year were about double. The average was double what the EPA recommended limit is. So we do see very significant radon levels in Larimer County. And the only way to know is to test. So you can't rely on, you heard your neighborhood's fine, you heard your neighbor's house was fine. You really need to test your house to know what your level is. So we've got a great partnership with CSU Extension this year, helping us with some of the marketing and outreach materials. We have test kits available at our offices. The state health department also has test kits available. If you go to their website, every Colorado resident can sign up for a free test kit. So we just want to get the word out to test here in January, and that's what we have.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Is there anything else that the three of you wish to present? You're good? Then I would like to offer my questions. And certainly if Commissioner Shattuck McNally has other questions or insights. So with regard to the air quality monitoring stations and the new locations, the one out east, how will that help us? It'll be closer to I-25 and a major transportation corridor. If you could explain more with a little bit more detail, how will that help us to understand those implications? And then I seem to recall that air sheds don't necessarily follow county boundaries. And how will the Loveland, the new sites, help us to better understand um, uh, ozone levels and what might be migrating from Weld County with greater oil and gas activity there? So a little bit about the air quality monitors and the methodology behind locating them where we've decided to locate them.
Yeah, sure. Great question. So the monitor on the east side of I-25 is pretty critical because we do want to know um, what what might be entering the county versus what is formed in the county. So having that monitor on the east side of I-25 will give us some additional data about, are ozone levels high before, as the weather pattern moves into Larimer County? Are the ozone levels low, and then as it moves across Larimer County, are they showing high on the west side? So it's that additional data point that we haven't had. Again, with just a couple monitors really pretty close to each other in Fort Collins, it limited what we were able to see. We worked really closely with the state health department in siting those monitors. So it actually quite a bit more time than I expected to take. We really evaluated sites, and they've got some criteria that they use to make sure that these sites are representative and they're going to provide data that we can use.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, Leah.
I was just going to add something that's unique is that these monitors have oxides of nitrogen monitoring on them, not just ozone. And that's a big deal because one of the things that they found in the RAC's ozone modeling is that our region is influenced by NOx emissions. Our ozone is sensitive to NOx from the oil and gas industry out east. So one of the things, having one just before the highway and one after, on the east side of the highway and on the west side of the highway is also part of this understanding of modeling our sources of NOx in our region.
I noticed that when you showed the details of the two monitoring stations, Timnath and Loveland, I saw that nitrogen oxides were listed with the Timnath one. I didn't see that with the Loveland one. So will they both be monitoring the same ozone precursors, or could you speak to that, please?
And I'm sorry, I should have specified Fort Collins ozone monitor will have NOx. So they have a NOx monitor, we have a NOx monitor, but they'll all be owned by the Air Pollution Control Division in the end. We're going to be working with them to do the quality assurance, but the ozone monitor in West Loveland is just ozone right now.
And why is, if I may just to continue the dialogue a little bit and then certainly turn it over to the commissioner, why is it important to collect data, monitor ozone precursors like volatile organic compounds, like nitrogen oxides, et cetera? Why is that important? And what's the current status related to that? If I'm kind of lumping things together, is it correct that Larimer County is still severe non-attainment area for ozone levels? So there are a couple of questions in there. I'm sorry that I can't.
Yeah, so similar to the answer to the last question, co-locating equipment like nitrogen oxides with ozone gives us information on, is the ozone already formed when it hits that monitor, or are the precursors moving across that monitor? So like Leah mentioned, our area is very sensitive to those precursors that come from oil and gas development to the east. So having that on those monitors gives us that information on where's the ozone forming. Is it forming east of us? Is it forming when it hits Larimer County? So again, co-locating those really gives us the information on where that ozone is formed. And then as far as non-attainment, yes, no changes in the non-attainment areas, still in that designation.
Thank you. I just my last question, and I've connected two together, so it's only one, and that is what you just described, which I think is great work, and I think we're all very appreciative. How does what you just described align with recommendations that were put out by one of our advisory boards, the Environmental and Science Advisory Board, when we talked about this at length, I believe in 2022. So where's the alignment there? I think there is. And then connected to that, it's nice that we're gathering. I always have to ask this question. We're gathering all this data. What's the point? How are we going to apply the data, and how will that help inform how we're going to get out of as a non-attainment area in the next 5 or whatever years? Application of data.
Let's start with that application of the data. Well, like we said, so far, all they've been able to do is use modeling for us. If we have actual hard data, we can back up that data, that we can back up that modeling to say we really are influenced by things out of our control, out of our county. But at the same time, if we start finding out that more of this is generated within our county, then we've got to start implementing more land use that controls, not controls, but organizes development a little better so that our community is less impacted by maybe our everyday activities. But that's kind of like the actions part of it. If we can influence statewide policy, we have a better chance of cleaning up our air overall. And then in regards to ESAB's proposal, I remember that with being volatile organic compounds. So that's a precursor that we are not evaluating on our monitors yet. But that would be something that could be a possibility because right now we're only focusing on NOx on our stationary monitors for the regulatory side. So it's just ozone and NOx right now. So that's something that would be very beneficial in the future because that is one of the things that modeling has shown is that VOCs from outside our county are less influencing than they used to be because of statewide controls put in place.
Great. Thank you. Commissioner, may I just do one quick follow-up and then whatever you have to share? And based on what you said, Leah, how much data do we need? How many years of data do we need before we have enough scientific data that can help inform any potential changes in land use policy, transportation policy, those kinds of things?
I've asked the Air Pollution Control Division that, typically for ozone, it's a 3-year period and you take an average. But they said even a year's worth of data is helpful enough to figure out like what your patterns were for that year, and for us locally especially.
Okay. Look forward to the application of the data that you're collecting. Thank you kindly. Commissioner Shattuck McNally, questions, comments, observations?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I had a similar question about. It's great. I mean, this is really a big step forward, and I appreciate everyone again your work and your dedication and bringing this update. It's great to know that we're not going to just be. We can use this data maybe quicker than we realize to do something and inform. So this data. So my first question, I have a couple, sir, if I might. If you say a year or up to 3 years, that's informing us as a board of county commissioners? Will this also be able to inform city councils in our region and also help inform the state and federal agencies? Is this data be shared and be taken for action for everyone? Because
Sure.
Fortunately, this is all of us need to work on this together, and so I'm curious how that will be shared, and do you think this will be something that others will look at and take and use?
Of course, yes. That's a big part of it because poor Loveland, they have to rely on Longmont and Fort Collins, but they're their own. They're a space too that have a living population that needs the information. That is one of the things. It's interesting because in that stakeholder committee group, we have one of the meteorologists from Air Pollution Control Division that does a lot of the atmospheric science and predicting ozone action days, and they are ecstatic that they're going to be able to include Loveland's own alert system in a sense so that that community doesn't feel like, oh, well, I'm not in Fort Collins, this doesn't impact me. So it'll bring more knowledge of that that ozone is a regional issue. It's not just localized. So that'll help. And these monitoring stations will end up in a data collecting network that will be public information too for our community members to get on and look at that data on a daily basis. Again, like I said, it'll be used for forecasting and ozone action days, ozone alert days. So this will be used regionally, even though it's not that 3 years of data. We can use that data now to do current, advisories and warnings from at a state level, local level.
I'm glad you're kind of segueing into my next couple of questions. You said, and I'm great to hear about we said the Weather Service, or who was it?
Oh, yeah. One of our atmospheric science specialists at the Air
Excellent.
Pollution Control Division is on
Excellent.
our stakeholder team.
But you mentioned someone from Thompson School District. So would that be someone in administration or someone in their health area? I'm just curious about that.
Health and safety. So this is great because it helps. Loveland's such a big area, and Thompson School District covers
It's
so many municipalities.
Yeah, and not just the city of Loveland. So I think that's an interesting. That's great. I like that idea. And then, so who pays? Who helps pays for this equipment? Is that's from the money that? Who pays for it now? How much did we put into this for now? Who is accountable? Who's accountable? Who's in charge of these now? And then you said hopefully that others will take take over. And then how do we do this? I feel like we need another one, kind of even more of the stuff. So
it's one of the regulatory, and that's something that what we're doing could influence that in the future. And the commissioners, you helped. You were the reason you budgeted for these 2 new ozone monitors and one of the NOx monitors. So the Timness site is all through Larimer County funds, and Poudre School District happily supported having that structure on the property through our existing partnerships. But Air Pollution Control Division, once we get it all set up and everything, we have a memo of understanding that they'll take it over. But then my team will come in and be the ones that kind of monitor it and check it out once a week for operation and maintenance. But all the data and everything will be processed at the state level. And then same thing, that Loveland ozone site, that was funded by Larimer County, and that is the ozone monitor, the shed. We have to get building permits. It's a whole process to set up just a little 8x10. But yes, that was all through Larimer County funding, and we'll see what kind of data comes out of it, where we want to go from there. Fort Collins came from a state grant that they were given for a regulatory monitor, so that's why they're doing ozone and NOx monitoring, and theirs is down at Fossil Creek Reservoir. So they got theirs through a grant. But that will also be absorbed by Air Pollution Control Division, and then operation and maintenance routine stuff will be with us.
Excellent. So we keep saying, well, why do we care? Everyone knows ozone, and I know how it impacted my father's health with his sensitivity to ozone days, which was high right before his health took a big turn in 2019. So I'm curious. And this might be a big question that maybe you can't answer today, so I understand if you can't, but are we, with all this other data that we're collecting on the air quality, and we know that impacts, this is why do we care, and why do we have this designation? Because we're all breathing it, and I try very hard to gas late at night, my car, or in the morning. I'm too busy anyway, so that's I grocery shop and do stuff anyway. But I'm curious, are we also the same time have we been, are we, or should we, or tracking the incidence of lung cancer, increase in asthma, childhood, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Severe occurring bronchitis. I mean, I could go on. Are we looking at that, tracking that along with these high ozone days and maybe ER visits? And are we looking at that as a big picture so we can help the public understand that, like my loved one, my father, this was kind of the tipping point for him, is how are we showing that this is impacting health for our residents?
Yes, again, Tom Gonzalez, Public Health Director. Thank you for the link to health. So our population epidemiologists are working closely with the state toxicologist in that parameter. Our data dashboard is starting to gather data around syndromic data, which is ED visits, emergency department visits, and we're trying to establish that link. High ozone day, do we have an increase in people visiting the hospital due to respiratory illnesses? We have made some links that we're going to continue to make that link. The biggest thing in the complexity of air quality, in my 3 years sitting on the Air Quality Control Commission, is how impacted this is by weather and meteorology. So last summer, we all remember it rained. It was cloudier days. We didn't have high heat days for the most part. So our ozone level is much different. So the complexity of this, we still could have had the ozone precursors, and we probably did, but we didn't have high ozone days. Something Dr. Olson has already proved, and it's on our data dashboard, is we never see a high ozone day that exceeds the EPA limit if the temperature is below 90 degrees. Once it's above 90 or above, doesn't mean you're going to have a high ozone alert, but that's when it will happen. So it's totally temperature influenced, it's weather influenced. So when we look at these year to year and the 3-year average, what reason state does that is based upon weather patterns. Last year is going to be difficult because of all the rain and cloudy days, and we didn't have the high heat days for the most part. If we have another high, dry summer, let's hope we don't, then it's in that sways that ozone level. Also, another impact is transported smoke from forest fires. That also impacts ozone. And also, we have a background here of around 45 to 50 parts per billion just of ozone where we're at just geographically. So all of that makes it complex. But yes, to add to that, we are looking at the link to human health, and can we show a cause and effect based upon the ozone layer. So that is being done currently. We do have some of that data on our data dashboard that we brought to you, larimer.gov/health, and we're going to continue to do that work as we see ozone levels in that trend.
So if I might, Mr. Chair, just ask another question on that. Thank you for your flexibility with my questions. So even if we don't have a high ozone day, aren't these precursors or some of these air toxics and the like you said, the 45,000 ozone, what did you call it, base or?
Parts per billion, yeah.
Yeah, that's just there.
Background, yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that already something that we should be I mean, I know you are, but isn't that something the public should be aware of, that even just that, living here, you're breathing that all the time, whether there's not a high ozone day, like if you're out running or hiking, and is that something that we should help educate folks that even if we don't have a like above 90 day, there's still those things in the air that we need to combat to get our air quality cleaner and cleaner in that pace, because that could, over a long term, living here for decades, is that going to impact your health in the long run? I'm curious about that.
So if I understand your question right.
Yeah, it was a lot of questions. I apologize, but I'm thinking if it's not the weather and we don't have an ozone alert, we still have these other air toxics that maybe we're not aware of, or just this 45,000 that you said that's just there that may not trigger the high warning, but there's still some there, and we're breathing those every day. And so is that something we should be concerned about in the long run as an accumulative fact living in Larimer County with just even this high kind of base, or I don't know what number you use, kind of this number that you used that we have all the time?
Yes, so that's really what the EPA toxic grant is targeting. So we are going to be looking at primarily air toxics, which could be VOCs and nitrogen oxides and the others families separately. So we want to learn and study those and see what is that correlation or non-correlation with ozone. But specifically what we're doing with the other is ozone, O3, how it impacts the human lung. So that's what that grant's all about. And we're trying to look at underserved areas predominantly because typically they are near areas of sources for air toxins. So yeah, that data would then feed into the other data that we're using to see the impacts to human health.
Well, I'm very grateful and excited and thankful for this presentation today, not only for myself, but for the public to understand I think, tremendous amount of progress and work in our partnerships. And again, my gratitude to City of Fort Collins and Fort Collins City Council and their partnership with this, as we have, I think, a big step forward into monitoring and getting this data, but also maybe moving towards more actions or helping folks understand these things. And I just really appreciate you all in the presentation today. And I might have more questions. I'm going to take this home and look at it some more, but I'm just really glad we did this today. So thank you all for your time and just appreciate the work that you're doing. And thanks for everyone who's gone down and spent 3 days to get trained and all those. I mean, that's never fun to be away from home for 3 days, but I am grateful for the efforts to have that training and be able to do that. So now we can use this as some of our enforcement action stuff. So Mr. Chair, thanks for the time. And again, just really grateful for this information today.
And I appreciate that. And I really appreciate your interest in the dialogue and the conversation we had here. That's fantastic for the staff and the community to see. I will say, as your public health director, in the last 18 months, what these three have done, and others, including Corey Wilford for their Office of Communications and Technology, is we've really transformed our air quality program to being more reactive and just kind of complaint-based to proactive. And that was your efforts, your funding, working with the Board of Health, hearing from the community. I'm very proud of our efforts. I'm very proud of where the air quality program is going. And I only see it moving in more of a positive direction, which is more proactive and preventive. So hats off to these three and the team for their hard work.
Thank you. I guess we're having a big appreciation circle here, and of course, extend the appreciation from all of us to the team, your public health team. So thank you very much for that. However, I have two additional questions that I think are important to raise. One is when you mentioned, Tom, that the precursors might be out there and there could be some public health concerns when they're out there, but unless the temperature is 90 degrees or higher, typically that's a big factor regarding whether or not we are exceeding levels that would put us in a air quality alert or an ozone alert. With that understanding, Tom and team, given that the most recent projections from the Colorado State University climate report indicating that we will likely see higher temperatures well above 90 more frequently, how are we preparing for that likely future from a public health standpoint? That is my first question.
Yeah, that's a great question. Climate change has a profound impact on human health. We know that. And one area is air quality, and especially the formation of ozone, that heat creating that O3. That is predominantly why we're ramping this program up and now trying to understand more the effects on human health. So then we can provide more education indicators to those that are higher risk that, hey, if you're high risk, you're out on a high ozone day, this is what we typically see through our syndromic data and some of our other epidemiological data. That's going to have to be the big piece. First and foremost is education.
Thank you. Then my final question, it's a specific example, and it might be a Leah question or Chris or Noel, but when I am running along the Poudre River Trail and I go towards Taft Hill Road, there is certain days there is an asphalt batch plant just to the north off of Taft Hill Road, and on certain days, I guess maybe it depends on wind, there's quite a distinct methane-like smell. What am I smelling? And is that something that the infrared camera might take a look at? That well, that's my question.
I will turn it over to the experts.
We're familiar with that location. And that is usually, we have those odors when we have temperature inversions, and it's usually about the fall that they come in because, we have low clouds and we don't have enough air to dilute that. And asphalt plants are known to, because of, they burn natural gas to keep asphalt warm. So they have an asphalt cement and then they have aggregate and that mixes together. So they have to burn it. So the source that you're smelling is actually that burnt fuel that they're using to keep that stuff warm. And that can create air toxics. So that isn't an interest for our AQ MAC group to evaluate those areas a little better.
Thank you, Leah. So we're smelling hydrocarbons. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, it could be hydrocarbons, like it could, like formaldehyde is a common byproduct of natural gas, just like, we usually burn a little cleaner in our homes with our gas stoves, but it's also a byproduct of gas stoves in the home. So good ventilation helps to reduce the level of the air toxic so it's not toxic, but you might still smell it.
Thank you very much, Leah. So before we move on, Lorinda, is there anything you'd like to add?
I think I just want to tack on to what Director Gonzalez said. This is a shift in the way the county has done business, and you all have shifted remarkably adaptively. I know it took a long time to get the equipment, to get the training done, and that is just part of the process of making a change. I really appreciate the work you're doing. It is benefiting the entire community, even if they don't know it's happening. Hopefully today they're learning a little bit more about that. But this is a shift, and it's much appreciated that you all have easily adapted and done that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Lorinda. Thank you, team. Thank you, colleagues. We'll now move on to the next discussion item, which is an update promotion of the 2024 community survey. And we're going to turn it over to our county manager, who can provide us with some information.
I will. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners. Michelle Bird wanted to be here today. She was really excited about it. She's under the weather, and so she has given me some talking points to make sure that we can promote this survey to the community. We do this every couple of years. It really is used to gather information about how our community feels our services are conducted, what they find valuable, what they maybe don't understand or aren't aware that we do. And so it really is an important thermometer to gauge kind of public sentiment about the county. There are two methods to complete the survey. So the first is a statistically valid mailed survey. A company was retained to identify a population segment, and those written surveys were mailed out in December. In fact, Michelle tells me that some of the households have already begun to return those surveys. So if you didn't get one of those surveys, there's another way to participate, which is exciting. We have an online option now available. It is available in English and in Spanish, and it is found on our website at larimer.gov/2024 community survey. And again, it's available in both English and Spanish, and there are directions for translation to Spanish in Spanish for those households. The public affairs team is going to be rolling out a campaign around this. So it'll be social media posts, emails, our website banner, a news release, and it'll be a spotlight on our website as well. So when you go to larimer.gov, you should see a spotlight that helps direct you to it. If you don't find it, if you're having trouble, use our search bar and just type in 2024 Community Survey. The page will pop up. So we really encourage people to respond to that. It is not statistically accurate, but when we've done this in the past, the results match pretty well, and it is open to more individuals to participate, more households. It'll remain open online, the survey, for roughly 3 to 4 weeks. We will have to decide based on how many responses we've received through mail, when to close that survey. The online version will not close before the mail-in survey is closed. So roughly 3 to 4 weeks, if not a little bit longer. Michelle will follow up with each of you and ask for your ongoing support with your groups. If you might send out that link to organizations that you're part of here locally, places where you've been asked to speak, just to broadcast even further to your networks. And we know that you all are champions of this information, that you will use these results to make decisions about how services are funded, what improvements we might need to make, what stories we might need to tell about the county services. And so this really is an important opportunity to participate. We do use these results in many ways throughout the year. One important way this year's results will be used is to perhaps tweak our 2024 strategic plan. So we had hoped to get this survey out sooner. It took a little while longer for the printing to be done. So we're actually working ahead of schedule on the strategic plan. But those are your objectives, and they can be tweaked and changed and added to at any point in time. And we certainly would recommend changes if we see survey results that indicate that. So again, I'm not Michelle. I hope I've done her item justice, but this really is important for folks to complete.
Thank you very much, Lorinda. You did a splendid job.
Thank you.
Commissioner, do you have questions or comments? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And maybe you mentioned this, Lorinda. I was taking a few notes here. So you want? I'm more than happy. I've always tried to get people out in the community, and I actually had a phone call with the gentleman who I think might have gotten one of the mailed surveys, and he was so excited to get it, and I think he said he spent an hour on it. So I don't know how long it is, but and it was an older gentleman, so I was pleasantly surprised to hear that. Are we also, and maybe, like I said, maybe I'm asking you to repeat yourself, and I apologize if you stated this and I didn't hear it, but are we going to send these to all of our boards and commissions?
We will. And so part of Michelle's email group is boards and commissions, anyone who's completed Larimer 101, anyone who's subscribed and has given us their email address. So there'll be an email blast that will go out to those who have shared that information with us. I understand. I flipped through the survey. You could probably complete it in as little as 15 to 20 minutes. It is not terribly complicated. If you want to spend more time, we certainly encourage that. You can pause it and come back to it. So that is a feature in this survey that is not always available. We think that's helpful to have people begin to really think through some of these questions. And then there are some free-form answers. So it's not all just check a box. There's an opportunity to provide some thoughts to us as well.
And I don't want to scare everybody thinking this survey might take an hour. I think this gentleman was so excited to receive it and have an opportunity to feedback. I think he probably gave lots of feedback. So
I think that's wonderful.
He was just thrilled. So, and I think you said this as well, but are we looking to be able to look at this data you said it's going to be open for at least 3 to 4 weeks because the mail survey, so we're looking at probably March? Maybe?
Realistically, I think probably March, not earlier. Okay. It takes time once all the surveys come back to really develop the report. The consultant that we hired to do the statistically accurate report has some time to complete that. We may have access to our online version a little faster, but it's important to be able to compare the two so that we do see where they match or where they may not match. But yeah, probably March.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I think that's all the questions I have. I hope Michelle feels better, and I'm really excited that we're reaching out to the community and getting their feedback. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have one question, Lorinda, and that is, are we doing anything intentionally to reach out to the youth demographic? For example, I think youth are more proficient at using QR codes. So are we doing specific outreach to the youth demographic with things like QR codes or perhaps social media that they might be more inclined to access?
You are asking a question I don't know the answer to, but I will follow up with Michelle on that. I know we do have some youth organizations that we have emails for. I don't know about the QR code, but I'll talk with Michelle when she returns to the office. Great idea.
Great. Thank you very much. Is there anything else on this topic? If not, we can move on to the next agenda item.
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
Okie doke. Well, again, well done. Thanks, Lorinda. Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. We wish you a good day. The next item is County Manager Update. Lorinda, you're on.
Thank you. I was away last week dealing with some family matters, and so I don't have much to update except to say thank you to Lori Kadrich. for holding down the fort. The assistant county manager took care of everything and handled it beautifully while I was away. So thank you to her.
Great. Thanks. Thank you, Lorinda. So we can now, are there any questions or comments? Yeah. We can now move on to commissioner activity reports. Turn it over to Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, thank you, Lorinda, and everyone for all your hard work. I'll just share a few highlights. We again, just thankful for the opportunity. I know I already spoke about this last week, the opportunity to meet or to give back to the community and with the Martin Luther King Day activities. And I've been still kind of following up and talking about those. The canceled ones in Loveland might be rescheduled. And that's why I bring that up. They might be rescheduled toward the end of the month just to allow those students who had won awards and worked so hard on their presentations or poems or essays still get a chance to present. So I'm hoping that works out. I had a meeting last week with the Rocky Mountain National Park superintendent, and we brought some of our staffs together to talk about some of the things that we work together on. For instance, land use, referral issues, and then just overall some of the common concerns with usage and visitors, high visitor activities. So it was a really great meeting, and I want to thank Superintendent Ingram and Kyle from his office for their time and thanking everyone for that. I also, just a heads up, I'm serving on the Women of NACO board and involved a little bit more in that, and it's an organization through the National Association of Counties, and we're getting a little more active this year and getting ready for the legislative conference in February. Can't believe it's almost here. And so just bringing that up because they're starting to look at pushing some policy work or advocating for certain policies. And so we're hoping that there's going to be a special space to attend a board meeting and having some activities at the legislative conference. So hoping that my colleagues from around the state and other areas will be attending that meeting and seeing what we can do together as the women of NACO. So very excited about that. I attended the Veterans Together meeting virtually. I think that was something that we did together, Commissioner Kofalis, and it was really great to have that conversation with the organizers, and then Lee Cooper from our Veteran Services Office. And I'm excited to see kind of the work that we continue to do together, and just want to appreciate their opportunity and how they're really trying to be voices for veterans in our community. It was we had our the National Association of Counties Rural Action Caucus meeting last week. We have some really great speakers coming up and at the national conference. And then we also had on our presentation just a little more information about the broadband. We had some, there's the accessible broadband program funding to provide internet help with those who can't afford to pay for broadband and for programs for students. That funding is potentially going to start to phase out, and there's a big push from a National Association of Counties, especially the Rural Caucus and others, to see if we can renew that funding, keep that program alive, and keep that going. And I think that's really important for many aspects, as we know from the pandemic and other things. The digital divide and digital equity is a big thing, and we certainly know how big of a thing it is more now than we did ever. And so that is something that we'll be advocating as the Rural Caucus, Action Caucus, to have that bill go forward. And I believe our one of our congressmen, Joe Neguse, is signed on as a co-sponsor for that bill. I spoke to him over the weekend about that. And so that was one thing I wanted to bring up, because I know that's something that is a concern here for Larimer County, and that's why I bring that up from that meeting. We had some really great speakers, and that's always a really great side conference at the legislative conference, and I really appreciate that. So we had an Estes Valley Planning Advisory meeting this last week. They're really digging into what else they'd like to do. I know they've got their work plan coming forward, and they're really enthusiastically wanting to be more involved with some of the comprehensive plan actions and how we can move towards implementing some of those ideas. And I know there's still some confusion about kind of some of the duties and stuff with the Estes Valley Planning Advisory Committee, but I just want to thank them for their enthusiasm. And one of them did a broad presentation together going back and really diving into the Estes Forward plan that we participated in as a part of our community, our county plan that's kind of was done together with the town of Estes. That plan hadn't been updated in over 20 years, so it's a really important document. And so I think that conversation will be coming forward as we look at the plans for all these boards and commissions. We had our NOCO partners meeting, which is the organization that has us and several other counties all the way down to Jefferson County, the National Park Service, the U.S. Forest Service, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and some other organizations. It's quite a big meeting last week. There is still some input for the time entry and some of the planning the Rocky Mountain National Park is doing, but also the U.S. Forest Service presented on a endeavor that they're doing, which I think will be quite impactful for Larimer County, and that is they're supposed to every 15 years update their forest use management plan. That has a lot of forest ranger groups and U.S. Forest groups have not updated for a long time, so that will be undergoing for our U.S. forests in the region, and this should be a pretty monumental and important impact to our county. And so I think it's something that I'll be trying to monitor and get a little more involved with. Monty Williams presented to the NOCO Partners Group, and certainly that was caught my attention, and I think it's very important going forward. We had our legislative briefing for Colorado Counties Incorporated. That was really important information, and I appreciate the feedback for that. And I think there are some bills that we'll be monitoring and talking about as a board with our some of our meetings and what we need to kind of keep our eyes on. And then I did attend through Senator Hickenlooper's office, the Wildfire Mitigation and Management Commission. It was nice to hear from some other members of the commission that came from Colorado than the other two times I've heard of. And again, 147 recommendations. We're just hoping that this doesn't just plan and the work that went into it doesn't just go on a shelf, that hopefully we can keep the commission open or get the plan and implemented, and also making sure that we're trying to follow some of those recommendations here. And so I think that's really important for the public to know that that work was done, and it's really aligns with some of the work that's happening here in Colorado and in our county. I attended the technical advisory group for our behavioral health, which is a subcommittee of the Behavioral Health Policy Council, and that was a well-attended meeting, and it was very great discussion, mostly discussing the Master Plan 2.0, which is something we have presented last week as a Board of County Commissioners, and they had a really good conversation, and it's starting to inform kind of the recommendations for the focus of the impact grants. And then I had a meeting with the BIPOC Alliance of Fort Collins over Zoom yesterday, and they had some concerns about some oversight and accountability, transparency. I did think they need to have some more education and try to explain to them some things that certain boards and commissions, like our Larimer County Interagency Oversight Group, they really weren't quite sure what it did. And so we had some education about that and how it's a state statutorily created board. And then I attended a couple events, actually 3 events last night. And I bring that up because they're all related to housing. One of them was the Fort Collins Chamber event, and it was about housing. And the question was, what is the proper role? What is the role of local government in terms of providing housing? And I purposely sat at a table where I didn't know anyone. And it was certainly a perspective very different from mine, and so it was enlightening to listen, and so I found that very interesting. It was well attended in a brewery up in North Fort Collins. And then I went to the Loveland City Council kind of town hall presented by the Loveland Voice, and almost half of the city council was there, including the mayor, and they had a lot of discussion about housing and about public restrooms availability in downtown Loveland, and that was a very robust discussion. And they're looking to the Fort Collins Downtown Development Authority and how they are providing public restrooms. And so that I thought that was a conversation you might be interested in, providing accessibility and support for individuals in our downtowns, Commissioner. And then last thing that I did last night was very late, attended at my American Association of University Women was a presentation on equity and belonging by Dr. Maria Gabriel from Thompson School District, who I consider one of our local experts in equity and diversity and inclusion. And she did an excellent presentation, and it was a very engaged group of women who really want to be engaged in the community and take action in supporting some of the efforts locally. And I just appreciate her work and the things that she does for the school district, and also equity for students and making sure all students are able to learn. And I have to say, I was very impressed with Thompson School District's data for on-time graduation rates, the highest I've seen, and even in the event of the pandemic. I took some pictures of the screenshot. They have seen a steady climb where I think they had overall district 91% of on-time graduation rates, which is outstanding, I think, considering some of the concerns about learning gaps from the pandemic. So I just want to congratulate Thompson School District on their work and their success. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll just focus on three things to share regarding last week. One is on Friday, I attended a funeral service at Timberline Church. One of our own who retired from the Larimer County Sheriff's Office passed away on December 1st at 59 years old from young onset Alzheimer's. And this person served 29 years with the Larimer County Sheriff's Office, and in various roles, various positions. He worked at the detention center. He was a patrol officer, dive rescue team, interagency drug task force, and 20 years on SWAT. And he retired as an investigator and a corporal. It was a very moving service. I was glad to be there. Secondly, I wanted to highlight two things, takeaways from the Thursday night Board of Health meeting. I serve as the liaison. One is that they did do a National Radon Month proclamation. They discussed and approved a proclamation. January is National Radon Month, and it's intended to provide awareness. Also, and I have the slides, but they talked about something that's called Health in All Policy. They provided a Health in All Policy annual update, and I'll just quickly read the definition of Health in All Policy: an approach to policy making that systematically considers the health implications of decisions across sectors, seeking synergies and avoiding harmful health effects of policies outside the health sector in order to improve both population health and health equity. And they have strengthened their legislative agenda, and so that was a good opportunity to learn about what our health department is doing. Finally, I did attend the Housing Catalyst board meeting. I serve as a liaison there to help with back and forth communication. They did provide us with they provided updates on two projects where they're going to be applying for city funds to rental affordable housing projects. So that was interesting. And then perhaps even more interesting, they provided information slides about their resident services. They do quite a bit with all of the various folks who live in what they call villages, Village on Horsetooth, all around the city. And they do a lot of great resident services, educational stuff, social stuff for adults and children. And one of the things that I think is most important for people to be aware of, I forget the exact name, but it's the Family Self-Sufficiency Program. And this is something that's been around for a long time, and they've updated it and expanded it. But basically, for people who are in a a housing catalyst apartment, whether it's a housing voucher or project based, they go in at a certain income level and their rent is calculated based on not exceeding 30% of their income level. And then they get, in the past, they would get a job or they'd get a raise in their income, and that would trigger an increase in the rent. The Family Self Sufficiency Program establishes that threshold when they first got into housing. And then, if there are any increases in income, rather than the rent goes up, but it goes into an escrow account, and then they can use that escrow account when they leave the affordable housing. And one example was somebody over however many years, I think, saved like $29,000 and was able to use that as a down payment on a home ownership. So that's all I have to share. Thank you for listening. And I believe we do not have any legal matters. Therefore, at 10:49 a.m., we are adjourned. Wish you all a good day. Be safe.